What do you do when someone close to you, someone you love, suddenly shows you a side of themselves you never expected? My name is Alice, and this is the story of how a day that was supposed to be filled with joy and celebration turned into a nightmare that shook everything I thought I knew about the people closest to me. Keep watching to find out how this story unfolds, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated with more stories like this where family, betrayal, and strength collide. My name is Alice, and my life has been full of love and support, but also filled with challenges I've had to face head-on. I was born with a physical condition that requires me to use a wheelchair, but that has never stopped me from achieving my goals. I grew up in a family of 5, with my loving parents who have since passed away, and my younger brother, Ben. Ben has always been incredibly supportive, though sometimes a little overprotective. Still, despite my physical challenges, I've lived a happy, fulfilling life. Now, as the CEO of my own company, I'm a busy woman busy with work, but still managing to find joy in the things I do. Even though I have a disability, I push myself to the limit in everything I do. My journey wasn't easy, but through hard work and determination, I studied hard, worked hard, and eventually started my own business. I proved that nothing could hold me back. One afternoon, as I was reviewing the company schedule with my secretary, I received an unexpected call. Hello? Hey, Alice, it's Ben. Hey, what's going on? Sorry to interrupt you while you're busy, but I have some big news. I'm getting married. Wow, really? Congratulations. Tell me about them. What are they like? We met through work. They're kind, really good at cooking and housework. Just wonderful. That's great. I'm so happy for you, Ben. As your sister, I'm relieved you found someone great. Stop talking like Mom. You sound just like her. Well, I was just worried if you could really find someone so wonderful. The wedding's in 5 months, so it's coming up fast. That's pretty quick, isn't it? With everything going on these days, we just feel it's the right time. I'm sorry it's all rushed, but I'll definitely be there. It's your wedding after all, but don't forget, you better come to mine someday too. Thanks, Alice. Wait, your wedding? I didn't know anything about that. Don't work too hard, okay? See you soon. I managed to shuffle my schedule around to attend Ben's wedding, though I hadn't met his fiancée yet. I was busy managing the company and Ben was busy with his own work, so we hadn't had the chance to meet. But I was happy for him and excited to see him marry the love of his life. When the day of the wedding finally arrived, I was just about to enter the venue when I heard someone call out, Hey you, wait a moment. Are you talking to me? Of course, it's obvious. I'm the bride, the star of today's show. Oh, nice to meet you. I'm Alice, Ben's sister. It was nice to meet Carol, the bride, but something about her attitude seemed off. She greeted me with a smile, but there was an underlying tension in her voice, something I couldn't quite place. Hey, what's with this woman? I can't believe this! Carol suddenly snapped. Nicole, what's going on? Don't touch me. I wasn't told that Ben had a sister like you. I knew he had a sister, but not like this. I had no idea. It was clear now Nicole, the bride's friend, wasn't thrilled to meet me, and it seemed to be because of how I looked. I could feel the sting of her words, but I didn't let them affect me. She didn't know me and she didn't understand. And yet, I could see the judgment in her eyes, a judgment I hadn't expected at my own brother's wedding. In that moment, all I could do was take a deep breath and remind myself of the strength that had brought me this far. Strength that I would continue to carry with me no matter what others thought. What's the matter with you? She said. I don't care if you're Ben's sister or whatever. That's a different matter. How will you compensate if you infect me with something? Please calm down. There's nothing about me that you can catch. Keep quiet. Your droplets are spreading. I can't believe this. People like you should be mentioned beforehand. Finding this out on the wedding day is the worst. Worst? What about me is the worst? You should figure it out yourself. Anyway, Ben and I are getting married, so I'll have to deal with you whether I like it or not. If people find out someone like you is my sister-in-law, I'll be humiliated in front of everyone. Use your head a bit. Use my head? What do you mean? I'm saying you should be considerate enough to leave. Can't you look at yourself in the mirror and feel ashamed? Am I an embarrassment to you? Yes, all of it. Everything about this is embarrassing. Even my close friends and boss are here, and it's embarrassing that they'll know you're part of the family. So do you always think like this? Huh? That's none of your business. Since I've caught Ben, the CEO, don't you dare get in my way. I was sure that Carol was tricking my brother. She was clearly pretending to be nice. My brother, who is always kind and never gets angry, had been fooled by a strange woman. Before remembering those times, I didn't want to make things worse on his special day. Thinking about how important this day was for my brother, I decided to leave quietly. Then I'll be leaving now. I'll just leave a gift here. Huh? I don't need money from someone like you. You don't even look like you can hold a decent job. You're just leeching off Ben, aren't you? I bet your gift is something small like $7, right? Is that so? Then I'll take this 70,000 gift back with me. It's quite heavy, though. 70,000 gift back with me. It's quite heavy, though. 70,000 gift back with me. It's quite heavy, though. 70,000? Wait, if you had that much money, you should have said so earlier. I'll take it. Sorry, I've already put it away. It's too late now. I'll be leaving then. No, you leave that gift here. And why do you even have that much money? Oh, I see. That's money you took from Ben, isn't it? No, actually, I run a company that makes mobility equipment with a global reputation. Even though I look different, my company makes $700 million a year, so a gift like this is no big deal. All the more reason to leave that 70,000 here. I'll use it for Ben and my happiness. Honestly, I don't approve of your marriage to my brother. I can't accept someone like you who is just after his money. Stop raising your voice. It's your fault for being deceived. What's all this about? My brother Ben appeared, and Carol looked shocked. This is, well, what are you talking about, brother? No, it's not like that. I'm not after the money. I just wanted to support and be there for you. Ben, hey, Carol, what did you say to my precious sister Alice? What did you mean by what you said? Ben, why are you so angry? It doesn't matter to me if you're after my money or whatever. You can do as you like. It's my responsibility, and even if we break up someday, I won't be angry. But what I absolutely won't forgive is you disrespecting my dear Alice. I was taken aback by the sight of my usually calm and reserved brother raising his voice, but I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and relief as I heard him standing up for me. It was a moment I'd never forget. Meanwhile, Carol, who had just been reprimanded by my brother, scoffed and said, "Well, if she has to be here, fine. She can come to the wedding, okay?" Ben wasn't having it. What do you mean, she can come? Do you think I need your permission? You think I'd go through with a wedding with someone who treats my sister like this, who disrespects her in front of everyone? No way. It's not happening. Why not? Carol shot back, clearly bewildered. Ben's expression hardened. You have no idea how much Alice has been through. We both lost our parents when we were young. Alice was just a little girl when our parents passed away. And despite everything, she still put on a brave face. I remember she would cry when she missed them, but then she'd wipe her tears and smile at me, telling me to be strong. She was so young, but she always made me feel better, and she still does. That smile of hers has kept me going through the toughest times. And you insult someone who means everything to me? That's unforgivable. You need to apologize to Alice right now. So Carol tried to dismiss his words. Supporting each other? You're exaggerating everything, Ben. Ben wasn't done. Take back every word you said about Alice. Look her in the eyes and apologize properly. No more excuses. At that point, I stood still, overwhelmed by the emotions flooding me. Ben's defense of me was something I hadn't realized I needed so much. We had been through so much together, and hearing him speak up for me in front of everyone made me feel stronger. Just then, someone else walked up to us. "Sorry to interrupt," said a man I recognized but couldn't place. "Do you even know what kind of company you're working for?" "Wait, why is the CEO here?" Ben asked, puzzled. The man glanced at Ben, then at me. "Ben has been a great help to me in business," he said, "and we even go out to eat together when we have time off. Our company is a distributor of mobility equipment, but the way you're behaving, it's just unacceptable, from every angle." I stared at him, recognizing him now. Wait, David? Why are you here? David smiled awkwardly. I asked David to come. I'm sorry you had to witness this, he explained. But do you know Alice? I had no idea either. But surprise, I'm actually in a relationship with Alice and I want to marry her. So I'm here asking for my brother-in-law's permission. Ben blinked, shocked. Wait, what? David, you're talking about being my brother-in-law now? Yeah, this is typical David, Fiona interrupted, attempting to lighten the mood. But I trust you, David. I know you'll take good care of Alice. Ben raised an eyebrow, clearly processing what had just been revealed. Wait a minute. Alice is marrying David, the CEO of the company Carol works for? That's incredible. But don't mistake this for luck, Carol. Alice worked hard to get where she is today. She faced every obstacle head-on and built her success through hard work and intelligence. So don't belittle her achievements. And then Carol finally spoke again, her voice full of disbelief. Wait a second. So this woman, Alice, is the girlfriend of the CEO and Ben is her brother? This is mind-blowing. But honestly, Alice is no stranger to working hard. She deserves everything she's earned. And by the way, she just became my fiancée today, so you should understand what it means to insult the woman I'm marrying. Everything felt surreal, but in that moment, I realized that I wasn't just part of my brother's life anymore. I had my own story, one that had taken so much to build, and now I had David, my fiancé, by my side. Carol replied defiantly, So what if I did? I don't care if she's your girlfriend, friend, or fiancé, or whatever. What's a CEO going to do? It's just personal stuff, right? Well, yes, David replied calmly. But there are clients here, and the company's reputation is at stake. Your remarks, Carol, are a serious issue in my company. Such behavior would be grounds for dismissal. I don't want to work with a company that harbors individuals like you. You can't just fire me. That would be a problem, Carol protested. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I can't stand the idea of someone like you becoming my sister-in-law. If you can understand why you need to apologize, then there's no point in talking any further, David said firmly. Wait, please. Breaking off the engagement and getting fired are big problems for me. How am I supposed to live if that happens? Carol begged, her tone desperate. Why don't you look for another company? David suggested calmly. I'm done with you, Carol, David said firmly. But you still want me to get you a job at my company? Carol's eyes widened with desperation. Ben, please, can you help me get a job? I'm your sister-in-law. Isn't there something you can do? She pleaded. Ben shook his head slowly. Carol, you really don't get it, do you? After all this mess, there's no way you're getting hired at my company. It's not about family ties. It's about trust and respect. But I'm family. Isn't it embarrassing to leave me unemployed? Carol's voice cracked as she tried to defend herself. Embarrassing? No, it's not embarrassing, Ben said, his tone softening slightly. But if you're just calling this a mistake, it means you actually believe what you said. You haven't shown any real intention to apologize. It doesn't look like you mean it. Carol's face flushed with panic as she realized the gravity of her situation. I didn't mean to offend anyone. I just said the wrong thing. If it was a mistake, Carol, it was a big one, David said, his expression serious. I faced many people's judgments, but you're the first to speak so openly and harshly to me. It was a shock, but now I see that some people really think like you do. Does that mean you'll forgive me? Carol asked, her eyes wide with hope. No, I can't forgive you, David replied. Shaking his head. Who wouldn't be upset after hearing what you said? Imagine if someone spoke to you like that. Would you be happy? If it were me, I'd probably respond even more harshly. Carol admitted, her voice barely a whisper. Well, it's going to be tough for you from now on, but good luck, David said, turning away from her. Marrying someone who can say such hurtful things is impossible. Our parents in heaven would be disappointed if I married someone like that. Alice nodded in agreement. That's true. Mom was so kind, and Dad was very compassionate. I see now that my idea of a perfect couple was based on them. I want to have a relationship like that with David. David smiled at Alice, his eyes softening. "We can build that kind of relationship together, Alice." Ben stepped forward, his expression stern. "David, could you let go of Alice's hand for a moment? It seems you've made your decision, brother. And one more thing, Carol, you are responsible for all the wedding expenses." Carol's face fell. "Ouch, that's going to be a big hit on my wallet," she muttered, her voice filled with despair. "Well, Carol," David continued, "I think it's best to call off the wedding. I've already told all my friends, and I've posted about the dress, the food, and the venue on social media." Carol's eyes widened with realization. No, I can't have the wedding called off. I've already told everyone. I've shared everything online. How am I supposed to explain this?" "Maybe you should delete those posts," David suggested calmly. "Most people who see them don't even know you. Is it really worth boasting to strangers about something that's not going to happen?" Carol looked around frantically, trying to find a way out of her predicament. "Wait, please. This is impossible. You have to reconsider. Think about it, please," she begged. David sighed, looking at Carol with a mix of pity and resolve. "Carol, you need to think this over. What you did was hurtful and disrespectful. It's going to be hard for you, but you have to face the consequences of your actions." As David turned to leave, Carol's voice grew more desperate. "Please, David, don't leave me like this. I'll do anything to make it right," she cried. David paused for a moment, then continued walking away, leaving Carol to reflect on her actions. The reality of her situation was finally sinking in, and she realized that she had to take responsibility for the chaos she had caused. Meanwhile, Alice and Ben watched the scene unfold with a sense of relief and closure. They knew that their family dynamics would be different from now on, but they also understood that this change was necessary for everyone involved. As they left, Alice took David's hand, feeling a sense of hope for their future together. Despite the turmoil, she knew that they had made the right decision and that they could face whatever challenges lay ahead with confidence and strength. Back at home, Alice and David sat down together, reflecting on the events of the day. "I'm so proud of you, David," Alice said softly. "You stood up for what's right, even when it was difficult." David smiled, holding Alice close. "I couldn't have done it without you, Alice. You've been my rock through all of this, and I'm so grateful for your support." As they looked out the window, the sun set on a day that marked a new beginning for them both. They knew that the road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but they were ready to face it together with love and determination. And so they moved forward, leaving the past behind and embracing the future with open hearts and unwavering faith in each other. "I feel like I hear something, but let's not worry about it and move on. Wait, where are you going, brother?" "We're off to host an engagement party for David and Alice." "Well then, my princess, shall we go?" "Wait, what? Brother David, this is suddenly so embarrassing." Thanks to my brother's kind planning, what was supposed to be a simple wedding turned into a surprise engagement party for David and me. Many of our colleagues and mutual friends were invited. When David and I arrived and started greeting everyone, my brother suddenly began crying. Some people found it amusing and laughed, while others, maybe feeling touched, also shed some tears. Because of my brother's kind nature, David and I could announce our engagement in a warm and friendly setting. It felt good to have the support and love of our friends and family around us. Everyone seemed genuinely happy for us, and it made the moment even more special. Meanwhile, Carol was kicked out of the venue just as my brother had said she would be. Carol had to pay for the entire cost of the ceremony and went into debt to cover it. She had hoped to show off her new status as the CEO's wife and enjoy some fame and respect. However, things didn't go as she planned. She was fired from her job, and instead of living the life of a CEO's wife, she's now being chased by debt collectors. Carol had planned to live with my brother, so her apartment lease had already been canceled. Now she's left without a place to live and is dealing with the reality of her situation. Some people in the industry said they saw her in the park looking lost and distressed, but it's unclear if it was really her. The glamorous life she hoped for has crumbled, and she's facing the harsh truth of her decisions. As for me, Alice, I'm finally getting married to David. Don't worry, we will live happily together. My brother assures me that David is trustworthy and that we will have a wonderful life together. We're excited to start this new chapter and build a happy future. I know it's safe, but there's still this uneasy feeling I can't quite put into words. What is this feeling? Hey, Ben, I hope it's not too forward of me to ask, but could the four of us visit the grave on our next day off? I'd really like to meet your parents, too. David, you're such a kind soul. Honestly, you're going to make me tear up again, Ben said, trying to laugh. Thanks to David's thoughtful suggestion, we decided that on our next day off, we'd visit my parents' grave. It felt like the right thing to do, something that held meaning and would bring us all closer together. Even though Ben had recently gone through the heartache of breaking off his engagement, he remained his usual upbeat self, and that was such a comfort. He's been through so much, yet he keeps his strength. I really hope that someday someone amazing walks into his life, someone who will love him as much as he deserves. He's a person who brings light into everyone's life, and I believe he deserves that same happiness in return. As I thought more about it, I realized that my brother likely felt the same way. He has always been someone who cares deeply about others, and I know that in his heart, he wants the best for those around him. I looked up at the sky, a brilliant shade of blue, not a cloud in sight. There was something so calming about it, and I couldn't help but feel like it was the perfect backdrop for what we were about to do. Watching my brother stand there, gazing at the sky, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. He's always been the one there for me, protecting me, making sure I had what I needed. And in that moment, I silently thanked him in my heart, appreciating every act of kindness and support he's given me over the years. As we began to plan our visit, I realized how significant it would be. Visiting the grave wasn't just about honoring the past, it was about reconnecting with where we came from and the people who shaped our lives. It's about acknowledging the legacy they've left us, even in ways we might not fully understand. I knew that visiting the grave would bring up so many emotions, but it felt right to do it together. David's suggestion had opened up an opportunity to share something personal and meaningful, something that would bring us even closer as a family. I could already feel how this experience would bond us, and I was grateful for that. My brother has always been someone I look up to. He's faced so many challenges with unwavering strength and a smile, and no matter how tough things got, he never let them defeat him. I admire his resilience and his heart. I know he's going to find happiness again. It's only a matter of time before someone special sees him for the incredible man he is. As I reflected on everything, I realized just how much my brother has sacrificed for me. He's always put my needs first, doing whatever it took to make sure I had everything I needed. He's been my rock, my guide, and my best friend. I can't imagine where I'd be without his love and support. The gratitude I feel for him is as vast and endless as the sky above. As he stood there, lost in thought, I silently thanked him. Thank you for everything. Thank you for always being there when I needed you, for raising me with such love. This visit wasn't just a chance to honor my parents. It was a way to acknowledge the strength of our family bond, a chance to support one another through the trials of life. I looked forward to the day when we could all stand together at the grave, reflecting on the past and finding hope for the future. My brother's kindness and strength inspire me every day. I truly hope he finds someone who cherishes him for who he is and makes him as happy as he has made me. He deserves a love that fills him with joy, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for him. As we prepared for the visit, I felt a profound sense of peace. We were doing something meaningful together. It was a reminder of the importance of family, the bonds that can never be broken no matter what we go through. I was so grateful for the opportunity to share this special moment with Ben and David, and I knew it would be a day none of us would ever forget. What do you do when everything you've worked for, all the love and support you've received, and the relationships that matter most to you are tested? How do you handle betrayal and disrespect in the face of what should be a joyous occasion? Alice's journey has been filled with hard-won success, but it was her family that stood by her when the world seemed to be falling apart. Her brother Ben's wedding day was meant to be a celebration, but Carol's harsh words and judgment shook Alice to her core. It was in that moment of adversity, however, that Alice learned just how strong the bond with her brother truly was. Ben didn't hesitate to stand up for Alice. defending her honor in front of everyone, and that act of love was more powerful than anything Carol could throw at them. The confrontation with Carol didn't just end with words. It led to the breaking of an engagement, the loss of a job, and the unraveling of a carefully constructed facade that Carol had built around herself. Alice, despite everything, stood tall. She had her brother's love, David's support, and her own inner strength to rely on. What Carol tried to tear down was now solidified. Alice was no longer just Ben's sister. She had built her own legacy, and nothing, not even Carol's insults, could take that away from her. The wedding, which had been marred by tension, transformed into an engagement celebration for Alice and David. Surrounded by friends and family, Alice realized that this was just the beginning of a new chapter. Together with David, she was ready to face the future with the same determination and love that had carried her this far. What do you think? How would you respond if someone you loved was disrespected in such a way? Would you stand up for them, just as Ben did? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more stories of love, family, and resilience.
I should have known something was wrong the moment I pulled into our driveway and saw all the cars lined up along our street. The bass from whatever music was playing inside our house made my steering wheel vibrate. After a 12-hour shift at the hospital, the last thing I needed was one of Jackson's surprise parties. My name is Alara, and until that night, I thought I was living someone else's perfect life. Funny how quickly things can unravel. I sat in my car for a moment, still wearing my scrubs, trying to gather enough energy to deal with whatever waited inside. The living room windows pulsed with multicolored lights, and I could see silhouettes of people dancing. Through the kitchen window, I spotted Jackson holding court at our island counter. Throwing his head back in that theatrical laugh he saves for his business associates. When I finally dragged myself to the front door, the handle was locked. I had to ring my own doorbell like some unexpected guest. A woman I'd never seen before opened it, champagne glass in hand, looking me up and down with obvious confusion. "Oh," she said, "are you the help?" Before I could answer, Jackson appeared behind her, his perfect smile faltering for just a fraction of a second. "Honey, you're home early." He swooped in for a kiss, but I turned my head. His lips grazed my cheek, leaving behind the smell of expensive bourbon. "It's 11:30, Jackson." My shift ended right on time. He wrapped an arm around my shoulders, steering me inside. "Everyone, this is my beautiful wife. She saves lives, you know." He announced it like I was some party trick he'd been saving for the perfect moment. A few guests raised their glasses, but most barely glanced our way. I spotted her then, a tall woman in a red dress, watching us from across the room. Something about the way she looked at Jackson made my stomach twist. She lifted her glass in our direction, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Who is that?" I asked Jackson. "Oh, that's just Lila. New client." He squeezed my shoulder a little too hard. "Why don't you go change into something more appropriate? I'll have Miguel mix you one of his famous martinis." I pulled away from him. "I'm exhausted, Jackson. I just spent 6 hours in emergency surgery. A kid almost died on my table today. Come on, babe. It's important to network. These people could really help us dash." "Help us what?" "We have everything you wanted. The house, the cars, the country club membership I never use." A few nearby guests pretended not to listen. Jackson's smile remained fixed, but his eyes hardened. "Don't do this now," he whispered. "Not in front of everyone." I looked around at everyone, his carefully curated collection of business contacts and social climbers. None of them knew that I'd been up since 4 a.m., that I'd skipped lunch to hold a crying mother's hand, or that I'd had to tell a father his daughter might never walk again. "You're right," I said, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "I should go change into something more appropriate. I wouldn't want to embarrass you with all this real-world mess." As I headed upstairs, I heard him smoothly explaining to someone that I was just tired and so dedicated to my work. The woman in the red dress, Lila, caught my eye again. This time, she wasn't smiling. In our bedroom, I found evidence that someone had been there, the covers slightly rumpled, a wine glass on my nightstand that wasn't mine. Next to it lay a tube of lipstick in a shade I'd never wear. I picked up the lipstick, rolling it between my fingers as the party continued below. The bass thumped through the floor, and I could hear Jackson's laugh again, followed by a woman's voice, high and musical. That's when I realized my perfect life was just another one of Jackson's carefully orchestrated performances. And I had been playing my part for far too long. I didn't call Finn right away. That would have been the sensible thing to do, but I spent 3 days pretending everything was normal. Going to work, making dinner, sleeping next to Jackson while that lipstick burned a hole in my dresser drawer. Sometimes denial is easier than facing the truth. It was Finn who finally showed up at my door, camera bag slung over his shoulder, wearing that concerned look he's had since we were kids. "You missed Sunday breakfast," he said, pushing past me into the kitchen. "Mom said you texted some excuse about picking up an extra shift." I busied myself making coffee, keeping my back to him. "I did pick up an extra shift." "Bullshit." I called the hospital. The coffee pot slipped in my hands, clattering against the counter. "You what?" "They said you called out sick." He leaned against the island, right where Jackson had been holding court at his party. "What's going on, Al?" I turned to face him, and something in my expression must have given me away because he straightened up immediately. "Show me," he said. Upstairs, I pulled out the lipstick and handed it to him. He turned it over in his hands, just like I had done countless times over the past few days. "Could be nothing," he said, but his jaw was tight. "Maybe someone left it at the party." "In our bedroom?" "On my nightstand." I sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly exhausted. "And there's more. A woman named Lila." The way she looked at him. "The one in the red dress?" When I looked up sharply, he added, "I've seen her around." "At that coffee shop near Jackson's office." "What do you mean, you've seen her around?" Finn set down his camera bag carefully, the way he does when he's about to say something he knows will hurt. "I didn't want to tell you until I was sure. I've been documenting things. Just in case." He pulled out his laptop and opened a folder labeled Property Development Projects. Inside were dozens of photos, Jackson and Lila having lunch. Walking together, laughing. In one, they were sitting close in a booth, his hand on her knee under the table. "These are from the past 3 months, Finn said quietly. I stared at the images, feeling strangely detached. "Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me?" He closed the laptop. "You've been defending him for years, Elle. The missed anniversaries, the business trips, the way he talks down to you in front of his friends." "I haven't been defending him," I started to say, but the words felt hollow. "I've been surviving," Finn finished. "Like we did with Dad. Making excuses, walking on eggshells, trying to keep the peace." The comparison hit me like a physical blow. Jackson's nothing like Dad. "No." Finn pulled up another photo. This one showed Jackson at his office, shouting at someone just out of frame. His face was twisted with the same rage I remembered from our childhood. The patterns are different, but the control is the same. I got up and walked to the window, watching our neighbor water her perfect roses in her perfect yard. What am I supposed to do? Just throw away 8 years of marriage? "No," Finn said, coming to stand beside me. "But maybe it's time to remember who you were before him. Remember that girl who used to paint until sunrise? Who had opinions and dreams and didn't apologize for taking up space? She grew up," I said softly. "She gave up. There's a difference." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Jackson, "Working late tonight. Don't wait up." Finn looked over my shoulder at the message. "Want to know something interesting? His office has been closed for renovations all week." I thought about the lipstick in my drawer, the rumpled bedsheets, Lila's knowing smile. "Show me everything," I said. Finn squeezed my shoulder. "There's my sister." As he pulled out more photos, I felt something shift inside me, not quite anger, not quite grief, but a quiet determination. Jackson had spent years carefully constructing his perfect life. Maybe it was time someone showed him what it looked like when things fell apart. Following Lila turned out to be easier than I expected. Her routine was as predictable as Jackson's lies: coffee at 9, yoga at noon, lunch meetings that stretched well into the afternoon. What I hadn't expected was for her to notice me watching and walk straight to my table at the cafe. "You're not very good at this," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "The whole surveillance thing. I spotted you 3 days ago." I gripped my coffee cup tighter. "And yet you waited until now to say something." "I was curious how long it would take you to confront me." She stirred her latte, studying me with those calculating eyes. "You're different than he described." "How did he describe me?" "Fragile. Dependent." A small smile played at her lips. "Clearly, he doesn't know you as well as he thinks." The casual way she talked about my husband made my stomach turn. "What do you want, Lila?" "To show you something." She pulled out her phone, scrolling through messages. "Jackson isn't just cheating on you. He's been embezzling from his company, using me to cover his tracks." "I have proof." My hand shook as I took the phone. Emails, bank statements, photos of documents, all showing millions flowing through shell companies. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because he promised me a partnership. Instead, he's setting me up to take the fall." Her perfectly manicured nails tapped against the table. "I thought I was special. Turns out I'm just another chess piece he's willing to sacrifice." "Why should I believe you?" "Check his office. Third drawer of his desk, there's a false bottom. The original documents are there." She stood up, adjusting her designer bag. "Oh, and Ilara? He's meeting me at the lake house tonight. The one he told you he sold last year." I sat there long after she left, remembering how proud Jackson had been when he bought that house. Our weekend getaway, he'd called it. Now I wondered how many other women he'd taken there. The office was empty when I arrived. His secretary knew me, barely glancing up as I walked past with a spare key I'd never used. Inside his office, everything was immaculate, not a paper out of place. The false bottom in his desk drawer opened with a soft click. What I found wasn't just proof of his financial fraud. There were photos of other women, dating back years. Hotel receipts. A second phone. And at the bottom, a manila envelope with my name on it. Inside were surveillance photos of me, at work, with friends, shopping. Notes about my schedule, my habits. A half-finished divorce agreement that would have left me with nothing, dated 3 months before our wedding. My phone buzzed. "Jackson, working late again. Don't wait up." I took pictures of everything, my hands steady despite the rage building inside me. Then I drove to the lake house. Their cars were already there when I arrived. Through the window, I could see them in the kitchen, Jackson pouring wine, Lila laughing at something he said. The same scene I'd witnessed countless times at our own home, now playing out like some twisted mirror image. I didn't interrupt. Instead, I sat in my car and called Finn. "I need those photos you took," I said when he answered. "All of them. And I need you to meet someone." What are you planning?" I watched Jackson pull Lila close, kissing her the way he used to kiss me. "Remember what Dad always said? The best revenge is making them destroy themselves." "Yeah, but Dad was a bastard." Maybe I said, starting my car. But he wasn't wrong about everything. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of Lila watching me from the window, raising her wine glass in a mock toast. She thought she was playing me, but she'd just handed me everything I needed. Jackson had spent years building his house of cards. Now it was time to watch it fall. The last person I expected to find on my doorstep at midnight was Margot Fields. My mother-in-law stood there in her designer coat, clutching her handbag like a shield. "We need to talk," she said, pushing past me into the house. "And you need to stop whatever you're planning." I closed the door, watching her scan the living room with those sharp eyes that had always made me feel inadequate. "I don't know what you mean." "Please." She pulled out her phone, showing me surveillance footage of my visit to Jackson's office. "Did you think the company wouldn't notice?" My heart raced, but I kept my voice steady. "Does Jackson know?" "Not yet." She sat down, her perfect posture a stark contrast to my exhausted slump against the wall. "But he will, unless we can fix this." "Fix what, exactly? The fraud? The affairs? Or just the evidence I found?" Something flickered across her face, not surprise, but recognition. "Sit down, Ilara. There are things you need to understand about my son." I stayed standing. 8 years of marriage wasn't enough to understand him? You saw what he wanted you to see. She pulled out an old photograph from her bag. A young boy with Jackson's eyes stood next to a man whose face had been burned away with cigarette marks. His father was creative with his punishments. The photograph trembled in my hands. Why are you showing me this? Because you're not the first woman he's tried to destroy. She took back the photo, her manicured fingers tracing its edges. There were others before you. Before Lila. Each time, he convinced himself they would betray him first, so he had to strike preemptively. And you helped him cover it up. I protected him. Her voice cracked, just slightly. The way I failed to protect him from his father. I thought about the divorce papers I'd found, dated before our wedding. You knew what he was planning to do to me. I knew he would try. She met my gaze steadily. Just like I know you're not actually working with Lila. The accusation hung in the air between us. I said nothing. She's playing both sides, dear. Always has been. Margot stood up, smoothing her coat. The question is, what are you going to do with that information? Why tell me this now? Because despite everything, you're good for him. Better than he deserves. She walked to the door, then paused. But if you're going to take him down, make sure you're ready for the collateral damage. Some secrets should stay buried. After she left, I found another photograph she'd slipped onto the coffee table. A newspaper clipping from 20 years ago. Local businessman dies in house fire. Foul play suspected. My phone buzzed with a text from Lila. Meeting tomorrow? I have more documents to share. I stared at the message, thinking about Margot's warning. About buried secrets and collateral damage. About a young boy with burned photographs and a mother who would do anything to protect him. Another text came through, this time from Jackson. Miss you. Coming home early tomorrow. Let's have dinner. I thought about how easily the lies came to him, how smoothly he moved between his different worlds. Just like his mother, playing both protector and enabler. My fingers hovered over the phone. Lila was waiting for my response, thinking she had me figured out. Jackson was probably at the lake house right now, not realizing his carefully constructed facade was crumbling. And somewhere, Margot was either trying to save her son or setting me up for an even bigger fall. I texted Finn, need your help. Bring your camera. Then I responded to Lila, tomorrow works. Same place. Finally, I wrote back to Jackson, can't wait. I'll cook your favorite. 3 messages, 3 lies. I was learning from the best after all. But unlike them, I wasn't playing both sides. I was playing my own game now. Sophie found me in my old studio, surrounded by dusty canvases and 8 years of abandoned dreams. I hadn't planned to come here, but after Margot's visit, I needed somewhere Jackson wouldn't think to look. Jesus, Elle, Sophie said, taking in the chaos. When's the last time you were up here? Our 2nd anniversary. I picked up a half-finished painting of the lake house. Jackson said my art was becoming a distraction from our marriage. Sophie moved closer, studying the canvas. And you believed him? I wanted to. I set the painting down carefully. Did you know about Lila? Her hesitation told me everything. I suspected. But you weren't ready to hear it. I'm your patient. You're supposed to tell me these things. You're my friend first. She touched my arm. And friends don't force truths that could break someone. They wait until that person is strong enough to face them. I pulled away, anger rising unexpectedly. So everyone just watched me play the fool? You, Finn, Margot, all protecting me like I'm some fragile thing that might shatter. No. Sophie's voice sharpened. We watched you grow stronger. There's a difference. She gestured at the studio. The Alara who gave up painting would have never survived what you're planning. I froze. What do you mean? Finn called me. He's worried you're going too far. She picked up one of my old brushes, rolling it between her fingers. Revenge isn't therapy, Elle. It won't heal what's broken. I'm not looking for healing. I grabbed a blank canvas, propping it on the easel. I'm looking for justice. Are you? Or are you trying to prove something? She watched as I squeezed paint onto a palette. To Jackson? To yourself? My hand shook as I lifted the brush. You didn't see what I found in his office. The photos, the plans, he's been orchestrating my destruction since before we got married. And now you're orchestrating his. The first stroke across the canvas was violent, red paint spattering like blood. He deserves it. Probably. Sophie moved to stand beside me. But you deserve peace more than you deserve revenge. My phone buzzed, Lila, confirming our meeting. Another message from Jackson about dinner. And a new one from Margot. Whatever you decide, remember, patterns repeat. I looked at the canvas, really looked at it. In my anger, I'd painted something dark and twisted, reminiscent of the burned photograph of Jackson's father. The same rage, different generation. I can't just let him win, I whispered. Then don't. Sophie handed me a clean brush. But win on your terms, not his. Not his mother's. Not Lila's. I stared at the brush, remembering how it used to feel when creating brought joy instead of pain. When art was about expression, not revenge. I have documents, I said finally. Proof of everything he's done. Enough to destroy him legally without destroying myself in the process. Sophie smiled. Now that sounds like the Alara I know. My phone buzzed again, Finn, sending photos from his surveillance of Lila. She wasn't just meeting with Jackson, she was meeting with his competitors too. Playing every angle, just like Margot said. I picked up a new color, bright, defiant yellow, and started painting over the darkness. I need your help with something. Name it. I'm going to have dinner with my husband tonight. The yellow mixed with the red, creating something unexpected and beautiful. And then I'm going to take back everything he stole from me, starting with the studio. Sophie watched as the painting transformed, understanding dawning in her eyes. What do you need me to do? I stepped back, seeing the whole canvas clearly for the first time in years. Be ready. When I'm done, there won't be any going back. The painting wasn't finished, but it was starting to take shape, a phoenix rising from ashes, its wings spread wide and fierce. Not for revenge, but for rebirth. The dining room felt like a stage set, perfect tablecloth, perfect candles, perfect facade. I'd spent hours preparing Jackson's favorite meal, playing the role of devoted wife one last time. When he walked in, his smile faltered at the sight of his mother sitting at our table. Mom? He loosened his tie, eyes darting between us. What's this about? Sit down, darling. Margot's voice was honey-sweet. Alara made your favorite. I watched him calculate the risks, weighing his options. Finally, he sat, reaching for the wine. Should I be worried? About dinner? I smiled, serving his plate. Or about the board meeting tomorrow? The wine sloshed over the rim of his glass. What? The one where you'll have to explain the missing funds. I sat down, unfolding my napkin. Or maybe about Lila's presentation to your competitors? You've been talking to Lila? His knuckles whitened around the glass. Everyone's been talking to Lila. Margot cut into her meat with surgical precision. That's what happens when you underestimate people, darling. They surprise you. Jackson's facade cracked. You knew? All this time. I knew everything. Margot set down her knife. Just like I knew about the others. Just like I knew about your father's accident. The room went still. I looked between them, seeing the weight of unspoken secrets. You don't know anything, Jackson whispered. I know you started the fire. Margot's words fell like stones. I helped you cover it up. My carefully planned confrontation was unraveling. This wasn't about affairs or fraud anymore. This was something darker, something generational. He deserved it, Jackson said, his voice changing, becoming younger somehow. You saw what he did to us. And now you're doing it to others. I pushed away from the table. The control, the manipulation, the careful destruction of anyone who gets too close. He turned to me, and for a moment I saw the scared boy in Margot's photograph. I never hurt you. You just planned to. I pulled out the divorce papers from his office. These were dated before our wedding, Jackson. You were plotting my downfall before you even said I do. To protect myself. He stood suddenly, sending his wine glass crashing. Everyone leaves. Everyone betrays. I just beat them to it. Like you beat your father to it? The words slipped out before I could stop them. His hand shot out, not toward me, but toward the evidence I'd gathered, the photos, the documents, everything that could destroy him. But Margot was faster, snatching them away. Enough, she said. It ends now. You're choosing her? Jackson's voice broke. Over your own son? I'm choosing to stop the pattern. Margot stood, straight-backed and regal even as tears slid down her cheeks. I protected you once, and it destroyed you. I won't make that mistake again. Jackson laughed, a hollow sound that raised the hair on my arms. You think you have proof? That anyone will believe you. He pulled out his phone. One call, and everything you care about disappears. Your job, your brother's photography business, your precious little art studio. Make the call, I said quietly. Show us who you really are. His finger hovered over the phone. In the silence, I could hear the echo of his father's rage, see the legacy of pain passed down like a poisoned inheritance. I loved you, I whispered. The real you, not this creature your father created. Love is weakness. He pressed the button. I learned that early. My phone buzzed. A message from Finn. It's done. Everything's backed up. You're safe. But I didn't feel safe. I felt hollow, watching the man I married transform into someone I never really knew. Someone who could burn down his own life just to prove he was in control of the flames. You're right about one thing, I said, standing to leave. Everyone does leave you, Jackson. But not because they betray you. Because you give them no choice. As I walked out, I heard Margot say softly, like father, like son. The sound of breaking glass followed me into the night, and I wondered if some patterns were too deep to break, some wounds too old to heal. The board meeting erupted into chaos the moment Lila finished her presentation. I watched from the back of the room as Jackson's carefully constructed world imploded, spreadsheet by damning spreadsheet. These allegations are ridiculous, he said, but his voice had lost its usual authority. Miss Thompson is a disgruntled employee with a personal vendetta. A personal vendetta? Lila's laugh was sharp. Should we discuss exactly how personal our relationship was, Jackson? Or should we let your wife do that? Every head turned toward me. I stood, hands steady, and walked to the front of the room. My name is Alara McKinley, I said, and everything Miss Thompson has shown you is true. I have additional documentation to support her claims. Jackson's face twisted into something ugly. You don't want to do this. Actually, I do. I plugged in my USB drive, and new images filled the screen. Not just financial records, but photos. The lake house. The other women. The burned remains of his father's study. What are you doing? His whisper was desperate. Breaking the pattern. The boardroom doors burst open, and Margot strode in, followed by 2 police detectives. It's time, Jackson. Time for what? He backed away, looking between us. Mother, whatever she's told you, Dash. I told them the truth, Margot said. About your father. About the fire. About everything I helped you hide. One of the detectives stepped forward. Mr. Reed, we need you to come with us. You can't prove anything. Jackson's composure cracked completely. It was 20 years ago. You've got nothing. We have this. I projected one final image, a series of photographs showing a teenage Jackson buying gasoline, walking toward his house, leaving just before the flames began. Your father wasn't the only one who kept detailed records. The room fell silent. Jackson stared at the evidence of his past, his hands shaking. You don't understand. He was going to destroy everything. He said I was weak, that I'd never be strong enough to run the company. I had to show him, Dash. That you could be just like him? I stepped closer. You succeeded, Jackson. You became exactly what he made you. He lunged then, not at me but at the computer, desperate to erase the evidence. Finn appeared from nowhere, tackling him before he could reach it. They crashed into the conference table, sending water glasses shattering across the floor. It's over, Finn said, pinning him down. Let it be over. As the detectives moved in with handcuffs, Jackson looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. I loved you, he said. In my way, I did. I know. I knelt beside him, just out of reach. That's what makes it tragic. You loved me the only way you knew how, by trying to destroy me before I could destroy you. Like father, like son, he whispered. No. I stood up, backing away. That's where you're wrong. You had a choice. You still have a choice. The detectives led him out, past the shocked board members, past Lila with her triumphant smile, past his mother who watched with tears in her eyes. At the door, he stopped. "The paintings in your studio," he said quietly. "I never really hated them. I was afraid of them, of what they meant." What did they mean? That you could create something beautiful without destroying something else first. He looked back at the wreckage of the boardroom. "I never learned how to do that." As they took him away, Margot touched my arm. "You could have destroyed him completely. Why didn't you?" I thought about the burned photograph, the scared little boy, the cycle of pain that had brought us here. Because then I'd be just another link in the chain. Through the boardroom windows, I watched Jackson being led to the police car. The morning sun caught his face, and for a moment, I saw him clearly, not as the monster he'd become, or the victim he'd been, but as something in between. Something human. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. "You okay?" I looked at the chaos around me, the scattered papers, the broken glass, the shattered remains of Jackson's facade. "No," I typed back, "but I will be." 6 months after Jackson's arrest, I stood in my transformed studio, surrounded by paintings for my first exhibition. The space that had gathered dust for years now burst with color, landscapes, abstracts, and one piece I hadn't planned to show. "You're really going to display that one?" Finn asked, helping me arrange the lighting. He nodded toward the portrait of Jackson as a child, standing in front of his father's burning house. "It's part of the story," I said. "Just not the whole story anymore." The gallery buzzed with opening night energy. Sophie had helped spread the word through her therapy groups, and several of her clients who'd escaped similar situations came to support the show. Their presence felt right, survivors understanding survivors. Lila showed up briefly, wearing Victory like an expensive perfume. "The company's mine now," she said, sipping champagne. Funny how things work out. I watched her work the room, wondering if she'd learned anything from Jackson's fall, or if she was just better at playing the game. Some patterns repeat in different ways. Near midnight, when most guests had left, Margot appeared. She moved through the gallery slowly, studying each piece until she reached the portrait of her son. "You captured him," she said softly. "Both versions, the boy he was, the man he became." I had a good teacher. I handed her an envelope. "He wrote this last week. Asked me to give it to you." Her hands trembled as she opened the letter. I stepped away, giving her privacy with whatever confessions or accusations Jackson had finally put to paper. Finn found me by the window, where my final piece hung, a phoenix rising from ashes, but with a twist. The flames weren't destroying it, they were transforming it, turning pain into power. "You okay?" he asked. "Getting there." I watched Margot wipe tears from her eyes, tucking the letter into her purse. Some things break clean, others leave jagged edges. Speaking of jagged edges, he nodded toward the door, where Sophie was leading in one last visitor. Jackson's prison uniform looked stark against the gallery's white walls. Part of his plea deal had included therapy, and Sophie had convinced the authorities to allow this supervised visit. He stopped in front of his portrait, studying it with the same intensity his mother had. "You made me look innocent," he said. "You were, once. And now," he turned to face me, thinner and somehow younger than I remembered. "Now you're just human." I moved to stand beside him. "Like the rest of us. I read about your work with domestic violence survivors. Using art as therapy." His voice caught. "You're doing what I never could, turning destruction into creation. It's not too late to learn." He smiled sadly. "Some fires can't be unlit." "No," I agreed. "But we can choose what rises from the ashes." After he left, escorted by guards, Margot touched my arm. "Thank you," she said, "for not making him a monster in your art. For seeing both sides of the story. There are always both sides." I looked around at my gallery, at the pieces showing darkness and light, destruction and rebirth. That's what I learned from all this. We're not just victims or villains. We're all just people, trying to break free from whatever cages we've built. The night ended quietly. Finn packed up his camera, Sophie hugged me goodbye, and Margot left with her son's letter close to her heart. I stayed behind, alone in the gallery that represented not just my rebirth, but my understanding of how complicated healing can be. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The paintings helped. Jay. I didn't respond, but I didn't delete it either. Some stories don't end with perfect closure or complete redemption. Sometimes they end with small steps toward change, with the recognition that even the deepest wounds can teach us something about healing. I turned off the gallery lights, leaving just the security spots illuminating the phoenix. In the shadowed glass, I caught my reflection overlaying the rising bird, and for the first time in years, I recognized myself completely. I never thought a simple piece of paper could change everything, but that's exactly what happened on a quiet Tuesday morning at Sugar Haven. The letter was waiting for me when I opened the store, tucked halfway under the front door like a snake ready to strike. My name is Cashin, but everyone calls me Cass. 5 years ago, I traded my high-powered career as a corporate crisis manager to help run my husband's family candy store. It wasn't exactly a lateral move, but love makes you do crazy things. The paper trembled in my hands as I read it. The store's finances are being mismanaged. If things continue this way, Sugar Haven will be bankrupt within months. Someone who cares. I read it 3 more times, my stomach dropping further with each pass. The morning sun streamed through our storefront windows, catching the dust motes dancing around our display of handmade chocolates. Everything looked normal, peaceful even. But something felt very, very wrong. Morning, darling. My mother-in-law Margot's voice rang out as she swept into the store, perfectly coiffed as always. Those display cases need cleaning before we open. I quickly stuffed the letter into my pocket. Margot, do you have a minute? There's something we should discuss. She barely glanced my way, busy adjusting a row of lollipops. Can it wait? The morning rush will start soon. It's about the store's finances, Dash. Oh, not this again. She turned to face me, her smile tight. Cashin, dear, I've been running this store since before you were born. Everything is fine. But what if it's not? Maybe we should look at the books together, Dash. The books are my responsibility, she cut in sharply. Your job is to manage the front of house and keep the customers happy. That's what you're good at. The bell above the door chimed as my husband Eli walked in, bringing with him the scent of coffee and his usual easy smile. Morning, loves. Mom, those new display cases you ordered arrived. They're gorgeous. New display cases? I asked. I thought we agreed to hold off on any major purchases this quarter. These were necessary, Margot said smoothly. First impressions matter in retail. Speaking of which, I've hired a new assistant to help with the afternoon rush. Lila starts tomorrow. Wait, what? I stared at her. We didn't discuss hiring anyone. We're discussing it now, she replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Eli agrees we need the help, don't you, sweetheart? Eli nodded, already distracted by his phone. Whatever you think is best, Mom. I watched them. This mother and son duo, who could so casually make decisions that affected all of us without even consulting me. The anonymous letter burned in my pocket like a hot coal. I need to check something in the office, I said, turning away before either could respond. As I walked to the back of the store, I heard Margot's voice. Oh, and Eilif, dear, remember we have that meeting with the bank tomorrow. I froze mid-step. What bank meeting? Why hadn't anyone mentioned this to me? Standing there among the shelves of candy and childhood dreams, I suddenly felt like an outsider in my own life. Something was happening at Sugar Haven, something beyond normal family business drama. The letter writer knew it, and now I knew it too. I pulled out my phone and texted my friend Claire, who'd quit working here 6 months ago. Need to talk. Something's not right at the store. Her response came quickly. Finally figured it out, huh? Meet me for coffee after your shift. There's a lot you need to know. I slipped my phone back into my pocket, my heart racing. Whatever was going on, I had a feeling this was just the beginning. And for the first time since leaving my old career, I felt that familiar surge of adrenaline that came with unraveling a crisis. Game on, Margot. Game on. Claire was already waiting at our usual corner table in Brewster's when I arrived, 2 steaming mugs in front of her. The afternoon sun caught the worry lines around her eyes as she watched me approach. You look like hell, she said, pushing a coffee toward me. Thanks for sugarcoating it. I slumped into the chair, exhausted after a day of fake smiles and pretending everything was fine. You were right about leaving Sugar Haven when you did. What finally tipped you off? I pulled out the anonymous letter and slid it across the table. Claire read it, her expression darkening. Well, shit. Though I'm not surprised. You should see what Eli just bought. She turned her phone toward me, showing an Instagram post. My husband stood proudly next to a brand new Tesla, Margot beaming beside him. The timestamp showed it was posted an hour ago. My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. We can't afford that. We literally just had a conversation about cutting back on expenses. That's not all, Claire said, scrolling through more photos. Designer clothes, fancy dinners, weekend trips. He's been living large for months now. With what money? I whispered, more to myself than to her. The store's barely breaking even. Remember that inheritance you got from your aunt last year? The one you were saving for emergencies. My blood ran cold. He wouldn't. Check your joint account. With trembling fingers, I pulled up our banking app. The inheritance money was still there, but there was something else, a series of large transfers from our business account to an unfamiliar number. What's this account? Claire asked, peering at my screen. I don't know. I don't have access to it. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. But I bet Margot does. Claire's expression softened. Honey, you need to wake up. This isn't just about the store anymore. They're playing you. But why? I gave up everything to help them. My career, my independent stash. Because you let them, she cut in. You're so busy trying to prove yourself worthy of their precious family legacy that you can't see what's really happening. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Eli. Where are you? Mom needs help with inventory. She needs help with inventory because she just fired 2 more experienced staff members last week, Claire said, reading the message upside down. Replace them with minimum wage teenagers who don't know a truffle from a Tootsie Roll. I stood up, gathering my things. I should go. Cass, wait. Claire grabbed my wrist. Remember when I quit? It wasn't just because of Margot's attitude. I found something in the office files, something that didn't add up. But when I tried to tell you, you weren't ready to hear it. And now I think you are. Meet me tomorrow morning before the store opens. Bring your laptop and the store's tax returns from last year. I hesitated. Those are in Margot's office. She keeps it locked. Claire's smile was sharp. Good thing I made a copy of her key before I left. Back at the store, I found Eli and Margot huddled together in the office, speaking in hushed tones. They jumped apart when I entered. Where have you been? Margot demanded. We have that bank meeting tomorrow, and these numbers need to be perfect. What bank meeting? I asked, watching their faces carefully. Just routine business, Eli said quickly. Nothing to worry about. Then you won't mind if I join you? Mother and son exchanged glances. That won't be necessary, Margot said smoothly. You focus on training the new girl tomorrow. Lila needs a proper introduction to how we do things here. I nodded, playing along. But as I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of papers on Margot's desk, loan applications with Sugar Haven listed as collateral. That night, after Eli fell asleep, I slipped out of bed and grabbed his phone. The password was still my birthday. At least that hadn't changed. What I found in his recent emails made my heart stop. Tomorrow's meeting wasn't routine at all. It was about refinancing a massive debt I knew nothing about. And my inheritance account was listed as potential collateral. I looked at my sleeping husband, this man I thought I knew, and made a decision. Tomorrow morning, I'd meet Claire and finally learn the truth. But first, I had a stop to make. At the bank where I kept my inheritance, to move it somewhere safe. Let the games begin. The bank opened at 8, but I was there at 7:30, pacing outside like a burglar casing the joint. By 9, my inheritance was safely transferred to a new private account. By 9:15, I was sitting in Claire's car outside Sugar Haven, staring at the store's tax returns spread across her dashboard. Holy shit, I whispered, running my finger down the columns of numbers. These can't be right. Oh, they're right, Claire said. Just not legal. Look at the supplier invoices. She pulled out more papers, showing me identical invoices with different amounts. One set matched the tax returns, the other showed much higher numbers. The difference was staggering. Margot's been cooking the books, I said, my mouth dry. But why? The store's been profitable for years. Has it? Claire raised an eyebrow. Or has she just been really good at making it look that way? The store's front door opened, and a young woman with bright red hair stepped out to sweep the sidewalk. Lila, Margot's new hire. She looked up, caught my eye, and quickly looked away. That's weird, I muttered. She's not supposed to start until today. Looks pretty comfortable for her first day, Claire observed. My phone buzzed. Eli calling. I ignored it. I need to get inside before they wonder where I am. Cass. Claire grabbed my arm. Be careful. You're not dealing with amateurs here. Inside, I found Margot showing Lila around the store like they were old friends. Lila's movements were too confident, too familiar with the space. Good you're here, Margot said brightly. Lila's been helping me organize the new inventory system. Such a quick learner. Really? I leaned against the counter. And when exactly did she learn it? A flicker of something, worry? Crossed Margot's face before her smile returned. Lila's been helping out informally for a few weeks. I wanted to make sure she was a good fit before making it official. Interesting. I turned to Lila. And what did you do before this? She started, but Margot cut her off. Shouldn't you be checking on that order for the Johnson wedding? It needs to be ready by noon. Actually, I said, not moving. I'd love to hear about Lila's experience. Especially with bookkeeping. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Lila's eyes darted between us like she was watching a tennis match. Cashin. Margot's voice was steel-wrapped in silk. A word in my office? Once inside, she closed the door with deliberate calm. I don't appreciate you interrogating my employees. And I don't appreciate being lied to about the store's finances. Her laugh was sharp. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone, showing her the photo I'd taken of the doctored invoices. Want to explain these? The color drained from her face. Where did you get those? Does it matter? What matters is what they show: fraud, tax evasion, and God knows what else. Is this why you've been pushing so hard to get access to my inheritance? To cover your tracks. You don't understand, Dash. Then make me understand. I slammed my hand on the desk. Because from where I'm standing, you and Eli have been systematically lying to me while trying to steal my money. The office door opened. Eli stood there, his face ashen. Mom? The bank called. They're denying the loan. Margot sank into her chair. That's not possible. We had an agreement. They found irregularities in our paperwork. His eyes met mine. What did you do? Me. I laughed, the sound hollow. Why don't you ask your mother about the fake invoices? Or better yet, ask Lila. She seems to know more about this place than I do, and I'm supposedly co-managing it. Cass, please. Eli stepped toward me. Whatever you think is happening, Dash. Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop lying. I moved my inheritance this morning. You can't touch it. Margot's head snapped up. You what? And I have copies of everything. The real books, the fake invoices, all of it. So here's what's going to happen. Either you both start telling me the truth right now, or I walk straight to the IRS. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Eli spoke, his voice barely a whisper. Mom, tell her. Margot looked between us, her carefully constructed world crumbling. When she spoke, her words hit me like physical blows. Sugar Haven has been insolvent for 3 years. Everything, the loans, the fake books, it was all to keep us afloat until we could access your inheritance. And Lila, my accountant's daughter, she's been helping us manage the situation. I looked at my husband, this stranger wearing Eli's face. How long have you known? His silence was answer enough. I spent the night at Claire's, ignoring the flood of texts and calls from both Eli and Margot. By morning, I had 18 missed calls and 1 email with the subject line, Family Emergency Meeting, 9 a.m. The irony of them finally including me in a meeting wasn't lost on me. When I walked into Sugar Haven at exactly 9, the store was still dark. Voices drifted from the back office, sharp and urgent. I found them all there, Margot behind her desk, Eli pacing, and Lila perched nervously in the corner with a laptop. You came, Eli said, relief washing over his face. Don't. I held up my hand. Just tell me what this is about. Margot cleared her throat. We have a proposal. A way to save everything. Everything you've been lying about? The store is salvageable, she pressed on. With the right investment, Dash. You mean my inheritance. It would be an investment in your future too, Eli jumped in. We could restructure, make you a proper partner, Dash. I laughed. This sound harsh even to my own ears. Now you want to make me a partner? After 3 years of treating me like a glorified cashier. 1/3 ownership, Margot said quietly. Equal partnership with Eli and me. The room went silent. Even Lila stopped typing. Show me the real numbers, I said. All of them. Lila turned her laptop around. The screen showed years of declining sales, mounting debt, and desperate attempts to keep up appearances. The store hadn't turned a real profit since before I married Eli. Why didn't you tell me? I asked him. I could have helped. It's literally what I used to do for a living. Mom said Dash he started, then stopped, looking trapped. I said we could handle it, Margot finished. This store was my life before you came along. I couldn't just dash. Just what? Trust me? Accept that someone else might know better. The old anger rose in my throat. You'd rather commit fraud than let me help? We did what we had to do, she snapped. To protect our legacy. Your legacy? I stepped closer to her desk. What about my legacy? The money you're so desperate to get your hands on, that was my aunt's legacy to me. The only family member who ever truly supported me. And now you can support your new family, Margot said, her voice softening. Isn't that what marriage is about? Sharing everything. The manipulation was so obvious it almost made me laugh. Like you've shared everything with me? Cass, please. Eli moved toward me. We can fix this. Together. I looked at my husband. Really looked at him. The man I'd given up my career for, who'd let his mother systematically push me aside while plotting to take my inheritance. Okay, I said finally. I have some conditions. Hope flickered across their faces. First, Margot steps down. Completely. No more secret books. No more hiring decisions. No more control. Absolutely not, Dash, she started, but I cut her off. Second, we bring in an independent auditor. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with. That's not necessary. Lila spoke up for the first time. I can dash. You can leave, I said flatly. Now. She looked at Margot, who nodded slightly. After she left, I continued. Third, Eli moves out until we figure this out. I need space to think clearly. What? His face crumpled. Cass, no, Dash. Those are my terms. Take them or leave them. Margot stood slowly, her face tight with fury. You ungrateful little Dash. Mom, don't, Eli warned. No, let her finish, I said. Let's hear exactly what she thinks of the woman whose money she's been plotting to steal. The silence stretched between us like taffy, sweet and dangerous. Finally, Margot spoke, her voice trembling with rage. This store was successful long before you came along, and it will be successful long after you're gone. I smiled, feeling strangely calm. No, Margot, it won't. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. Because I just forwarded copies of your creative bookkeeping to the IRS and the bank. I'm sure they'll find it fascinating reading. The color drained from both their faces. You're bluffing, Margot whispered. I turned to leave, pausing at the door. Want to bet your legacy on that? I couldn't sleep that night, so I went back to Sugar Haven around midnight to clear my head. The store always felt different after hours. Peaceful, almost honest in its emptiness. But as I approached, I noticed a light on in the back office. Through the window, I saw Eli and Lila huddled close together over the computer, their faces illuminated by the screen. His hand was on her shoulder, and she was nodding intently at whatever he was saying. My stomach lurched. I used my key to enter quietly, catching fragments of their conversation. Can't tell her about this, Eli was saying. It would destroy everything. But she already knows about the books, Lila replied. Maybe if we just dash. No. His voice was firm. Mom's right. Some things have to stay buried. I stepped into the doorway. What things? They jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Lila's face went white, and Eli's expression cycled through surprise, fear, and something that looked suspiciously like relief. Cass, he started. This isn't Dash. What it looks like? I moved closer, noting the spreadsheets on the screen. Then tell me what it is, Eli. For once, just tell me the truth. Lila grabbed her bag. I should go, Dash. Stay. My voice was ice. I want to hear exactly what needs to stay buried. They exchanged glances, having one of those silent conversations that people share when they're keeping secrets. Finally, Lila spoke. "Show her," she told Eli. "She'll find out anyway." He slumped in defeat, turning the laptop toward me. What I saw made my knees weak. A second set of books, going back years before I joined the business. Not just creative accounting, but systematic fraud. And at the bottom of each year's records, 2 signatures, Margot Rivers and my husband's. "How long?" I whispered. "Since Dad died," Eli admitted. "The store was in trouble, and Mom, she couldn't let it fail. Said it would kill Dad all over again if we lost it. So you just went along with it? Year after year. I tried to fix it." His voice cracked. "That's what Lila's been helping me with. She knows accounting, and I thought maybe if we could straighten things out before anyone found out dash." "Before I found out, you mean?" The pieces clicked into place. "That's why Margot hired her. Not to help with the store, but to cover your tracks." Lila stood up straighter. "It's not like that. I really was trying to help Dash. By lying to me? By helping them steal my inheritance." "No." Eli reached for me, but I stepped back. "The inheritance thing, that was Mom's idea. I never wanted Dash. But you went along with it. I cut in. Like you always do." He fell silent, and in that silence, I heard everything he couldn't say. Every choice he'd made, every lie he'd told, every time he'd chosen his mother's approval over my trust. "I'm having panic attacks," he said quietly. "About the store, about Mom, about everything. Lila's been helping me deal with it. That's all. And you couldn't tell me this because you would have tried to fix it." He ran his hands through his hair in frustration. "Like you fix everything. And I needed to prove I could handle it myself." I looked at my husband, really looked at him. The boy trying to be a man, forever caught between his mother's expectations and his own inadequacies. And I felt something inside me break. "I'm done," I said softly. "What?" "I'm done fixing things. Done pretending we're partners when you've never trusted me enough to be one." I turned to leave, then stopped. "Oh, and Lila? The anonymous letter warning about the store's finances. Was that you?" She nodded slowly. "Someone had to do something." I laughed, the sound hollow in the empty store. "Well, congratulations. You did something all right." "Cass, wait." Eli called after me. "Where are you going?" I paused at the door, looking back at the ruins of my marriage scattered across a computer screen. "To pack my things. I suggest you do the same before the IRS shows up." The bell above the door chimed as I left, its cheerful sound a final, bitter reminder of all the sweetness I'd thought we were building together. 3 days after I left, Margot showed up at Claire's apartment where I was staying. She didn't look like the polished matriarch I knew. Her hair was unkempt, her clothes wrinkled. She clutched a manila envelope like a lifeline. "The IRS is coming tomorrow," she said without preamble. "We need to talk." I let her in, more out of curiosity than compassion. Claire made herself scarce, squeezing my shoulder as she left. "Where's Eli?" I asked. "At his sister's." Margot's hands trembled as she opened the envelope. "I have a proposal." "Another one?" The last one worked out so well. She spread documents across Claire's coffee table. "We can still save the store. If we act fast, we can restructure everything before Dash." "Before what?" "Before you go to jail for tax fraud." Her face hardened. "Is that what you want? To see your husband in prison?" The question hit me like a physical blow. "Don't you dare put this on me. You did this. You and Eli. We did it for the family." She stood up, pacing. "Everything I've done has been to protect what my husband built. What we built. By destroying it, by saving it." She whirled on me. "You think you're so much better than us with your corporate background and your crisis management skills. But you don't understand what it means to protect a legacy." I laughed bitterly. "A legacy of lies? A legacy of survival." She sat down heavily. The store was all Robert had left when he died. His dream. His heart. I couldn't let it die too. For a moment, I saw her clearly, not as the manipulative mother-in-law, but as a widow desperately trying to hold on to her husband's memory. It didn't excuse anything, but it explained so much. "I can't help you, Margot. You can." She pulled out another document. "Sign over your inheritance as an investment. We'll make you full partner, Equal share with Eli. I'll step down completely. Why should I believe you? Because I'm desperate. The admission seemed to cost her physically. Because Eli loves you. Because dash. My phone buzzed, a text from Eli, don't sign anything. Coming over. 10 minutes later, he burst in, looking wild-eyed. Mom, stop. It's over. Eli, please dash. I confessed. He wouldn't meet either of our eyes. To the IRS. This morning. About everything. The silence that followed was deafening. You did what? Margot whispered. I couldn't take it anymore. The lying, the pressure. He finally looked at me. I'm sorry, Cass. For all of it. I felt oddly hollow. What happens now? They're charging me with tax fraud. Mom too, probably. The store. He swallowed hard. They're seizing everything. Margot crumpled into herself. Decades of careful control shattering. You fool. You stupid, weak fool. Mom dash. Get out. Her voice was ice. Both of you, get out. I gathered my things, watching as she clutched the worthless documents to her chest. At the door, Eli caught my arm. I did it for you, he said softly. To prove I could be honest. No. I pulled away. You did it for yourself. Just like I'm doing this for myself. Doing what? I handed him an envelope of my own divorce papers. I filed yesterday. Cass, please. His voice broke. We can start over. Clean slate. That's the problem, Eli. You always want to start over instead of fixing what's broken. I stepped into the hallway. Good luck with the IRS. Behind me, I heard Margot's quiet sobs and Eli's attempts at comfort. The sound followed me down the stairs, a requiem for all our broken dreams. Outside, my phone buzzed again. An email from my old firm responding to the resume I'd sent last week. Position available immediately. When can you start? I looked back at Claire's building, where the remains of my marriage were scattered across a coffee table. Then I looked at my phone, at the chance to reclaim my old life. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply walking away. I typed my response. I can start tomorrow. The news broke on a Tuesday morning. I was settling into my new office at Crawford & Associates when my phone exploded with notifications. Sugar Haven's windows were papered with official seizure notices, and local news crews clustered outside like vultures. I shouldn't have gone, but something pulled me there. Maybe closure, maybe morbid curiosity. By the time I arrived, Margot was giving an impromptu press conference on the sidewalk. This business has served this community for 3 generations, she was saying, her voice steady despite everything. We will fight these baseless accusations, dash. Baseless? I couldn't help myself. Is that what we're calling tax fraud now? The reporter's head swiveled toward me like hungry sharks scenting blood. Margot's face went white. Cashin, this isn't the place, dash. Actually, it's the perfect place. I moved closer, feeling the cameras following me. Why don't you tell them about the 2 sets of books? Or how you tried to steal my inheritance to cover your tracks? You vindictive little dash, she caught herself, aware of the audience. Everything I did was to protect this store. No. I was surprised by how calm I felt. Everything you did was to protect your ego. The store was just collateral damage. Like you're any better? Her composure cracked. You ran back to your corporate job the minute things got difficult. You never cared about Sugar Haven. I cared enough to tell the truth. The truth? She laughed bitterly. The truth is, you were never good enough for my son or this family. You were just waiting for an excuse to destroy us. Mom, stop. Eli pushed through the crowd, Lila trailing behind him. This isn't helping. Oh, look who finally showed up, Margot sneered. The prodigal son and his little accomplice. Lila stepped forward. Actually, I'm here as a representative of the IRS investigation team. She pulled out a badge. We have some additional questions about certain transactions. The silence that followed was deafening. Margot's face cycled through shock, betrayal, and finally, defeat. You were working for them? She whispered. All this time. Since the first red flag was raised, Lila confirmed. Though your daughter-in-law's evidence made our job much easier. Margot turned to me, realization dawning. The anonymous letter. That was you. No. I smiled slightly. That was Claire. Turns out she kept better records than you did. You planned this, Eli said quietly. All of it. Actually, I didn't. I just stopped covering for you. I looked between them, my husband and his mother, united in their delusions until the very end. You did this to yourselves. Please, Margot's voice cracked. We can still fix this. Together, as a family dash. We were never a family. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Margot? The store's success wasn't your legacy. The truth is, it was failing long before I came along. You just couldn't admit it. As I walked away, I heard Lila beginning to read them their rights. The reporters shouted questions, their cameras flashing like lightning in a storm, but I didn't look back. My phone buzzed, a text from Claire. Karma's a bitch, isn't it? I looked up at the Sugar Haven sign, remembering the day I'd first walked through those doors, full of hope and dreams of family. Now those dreams lay shattered like sugar glass, but something stronger had emerged from the wreckage. Me. Another text came through, this one from Eli. I never meant for any of this to happen. I typed back, I know. That's the problem. Then I blocked his number, straightened my jacket, and walked toward my car. Behind me, I could hear Margot's voice rising in protest, Eli's attempts to calm her, and the steady click of handcuffs. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about walking away and letting them destroy themselves. I had a meeting to get to, after all. Life goes on, even when fairy tales end. And this time I was writing my own story. 1 year later, I stood outside the empty shell of Sugar Haven, watching workers take down the sign that had hung there for 3 generations. The late autumn wind carried the scent of dying leaves and change. Claire joined me, 2 coffee cups in hand. Feeling nostalgic? Not really. I accepted the coffee, noting how the storefront's faded paint matched the gray sky, just thinking about karma. Speaking of which, she nodded toward an approaching figure. Eli, looking older and thinner, his designer clothes replaced by worn jeans and a work shirt. I'll give you 2 a minute, Claire said, squeezing my arm before walking away. Eli stopped a few feet from me, hands shoved in his pockets. You look good. Corporate crisis management suits me better than candy. I studied him. How's your mother? Living with my sister in Ohio. The court-mandated therapy is helping. He cleared his throat. The sentencing is next week. I nodded. We both knew he was facing probation while Margot would likely serve time. The justice system had its own sense of karma. I got your email, I said. About the new business venture. It's different this time. He pulled out a business plan, clearly prepared for this moment. A small bakery, completely transparent finances. No family involvement. I've been taking business classes, learning to do things right. Why tell me? Because you were right. About everything. He looked up at the empty store. I spent so long trying to protect something that was already broken. I broke the only thing worth saving. The wind picked up, scattering leaves around our feet. In the distance, a truck backed up to load the dismantled sign. I'm not asking for another chance, he continued. Just an opportunity to prove I've changed. As business partners, nothing more. I took the business plan, feeling its weight, literal and metaphorical. You know I'm engaged now. I know. Claire told me. He's a lucky guy. A year ago, this conversation would have torn me apart. Now it felt like closing a book I'd read long ago, familiar but no longer personal. I'll look it over, I said, tucking the plan into my bag. But I have conditions. Name them. I'm silent partner only. No involvement in daily operations. I met his eyes. And you get therapy for your anxiety. Real therapy, not just confiding in employees. He flinched but nodded. Already started. 3 months now. My phone buzzed, a crisis at work needed attention. As I turned to leave, Eli called after me. Do you ever regret it? How things ended. I looked back at Sugar Haven one last time. Through the empty windows, I could almost see echoes of what we'd been, young, in love, full of dreams about family and legacy. But I could also see what we'd become. Lies, manipulation, broken trust. I regret that it had to end that way, I said finally. But I don't regret ending it. He nodded, understanding. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For all of it. I know. I smiled slightly. That's why I'm considering your proposal. As I walked away, I passed the workers loading the last pieces of the Sugar Haven sign into their truck. One fragment caught my eye, the word sweet in faded gold letters. My phone buzzed again. A text from Claire. Dinner tonight to celebrate your promotion? I typed back, yes. And I have an interesting business proposal to discuss. Sometimes karma isn't about revenge or justice. Sometimes it's about finding the courage to close one door and open another. Sometimes it's about learning that the sweetest victories aren't won through destruction, but through reconstruction of yourself, your boundaries, your future. I glanced back one final time. Eli was still standing there, watching the workers, looking both lost and found. We caught each other's eye and exchanged small nods. Not quite forgiveness, not quite friendship, but something like understanding. Then I turned away, heading toward my car and my next crisis, leaving Sugar Haven and its bitter memories behind. After all, some things are better left in the past. But some things deserve a second chance. On the right terms, with the right boundaries, and with clear eyes about what's really at stake. Sweet karma indeed. I was rummaging through Grandma Edna's old cedar chest, the one she kept in the attic under a heap of dusty quilts. The attic was hot and musty, filled with the scent of aged wood and forgotten memories. I had volunteered to help clean out her things, partly to escape the tension downstairs and partly because I always loved the stories hidden in her treasures. As I lifted a faded quilt, a small envelope slipped out and fluttered to the floor. My heart did a little flip. The envelope was addressed to me in Grandma Edna's elegant handwriting. I hesitated for a moment, the weight of its potential contents pressing down on me. Then, with a deep breath, I tore it open. Inside was a letter, written in her usual neat script. I started reading, and with each line, my world shifted. Dear Harper, it began, I have watched you grow into a strong and capable woman, often overshadowed by your brother's achievements. Know that I see you, and I value you for who you are. I have decided to leave you the family heirlooms, the ones you always admired. They are yours, my dear, to cherish and protect. I had to sit down, my legs suddenly weak. Grandma Edna's words were like a balm to my soul, but they also set off a storm of emotions. I knew how much those heirlooms meant to Bryce, how he assumed they would be his, just like everything else. This letter was a game changer, a secret that could tilt the delicate balance of our family dynamics. Harper. My mother's voice floated up the stairs, jolting me back to reality. Are you coming down for dinner? Yeah, just a minute. I called back, folding the letter and slipping it into my pocket. I needed time to process this, to figure out what it meant for me and for us. Downstairs, the usual scene unfolded. My brother Bryce, the golden child, was regaling our parents with tales of his latest triumph at the bank, his voice dripping with the confidence of someone who knew they were adored. My parents, Lorraine and Gerald, hung on his every word, their faces alight with pride. I slid into my seat at the table, trying to mask the turmoil brewing inside me. Hey, Harper, Bryce said with that easy grin of his. How's the event planning going? Any big gigs coming up? It's good, I replied, keeping my tone light. I'm working on a charity gala for next month. Should be a big deal. That's nice, my mother said, her attention already drifting back to Bryce. You know, Bryce, you should invite some of your clients. They'd love a good charity event. I clenched my fork a little tighter, forcing a smile. Yeah, maybe. Dinner continued in the same vein, with Bryce as the star of the show. But the letter burned a hole in my pocket, a constant reminder of the secret I now held. As the conversation flowed around me, I couldn't help but wonder how things would change once the truth came out. After dinner, I excused myself and headed to my room, the letter weighing heavily on my mind. I paced the floor, trying to make sense of it all. Part of me wanted to confront Bryce, to throw the letter in his face and watch his smug confidence crumble. But another part of me hesitated, not wanting to upset the fragile peace in our family. I thought of Grandma Edna, her kind eyes and gentle smile. She had always been my anchor, the one who saw me for who I truly was. Her decision to leave the heirlooms to me felt like a validation I'd been craving for years. But it also came with a responsibility I wasn't sure I was ready to shoulder. As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The letter was a catalyst, a spark that would ignite a fire I couldn't yet understand. I didn't know where this path would lead, but I knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be the same again. And with that thought, I drifted into a restless sleep, the promise of change hanging in the air like a storm on the horizon. The morning after finding Grandma Edna's letter, I woke up with a sense of determination. It was time to confront the favoritism that had been a shadow over my life for too long. I glanced at my reflection in the mirror, noticing the resolve in my eyes. Today was the day I would speak up. Downstairs, the kitchen was filled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the chatter of my parents. Bryce was already at the table, scrolling through his phone. My parents sat across from him, their attention fully absorbed in whatever story he was spinning today. "Morning," I said, sliding into a chair. "Morning, Harper," my father, Gerald, replied, barely looking up. "Bryce was just telling us about a new client he landed. Sounds impressive." "Yeah, it's a big deal," Bryce said with a smug smile, not missing a beat. "Could lead to some major opportunities." I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "That's great, Bryce. But I've been thinking." My mother, Lorraine, looked up, her expression curious. "About what, dear?" "About how things are around here. How it feels like Bryce's achievements always overshadow mine, no matter what I do." There it was, out in the open. My heart raced as I waited for their reaction. Bryce smirked, but there was a flicker of something else in his eyes, surprise, maybe. "Come on, Harper. You know it's not like that, isn't it?" I challenged, my voice steady. "I'm working hard too, and I've accomplished a lot in my own right. But it never seems to matter." My father frowned, setting down his coffee mug. "Harper, we're proud of you. But Bryce's work is just different." "Different?" I echoed, frustration bubbling up. "Or is it just more important to you because it fits your idea of success?" Lorraine sighed, her expression softening slightly. "We don't mean to make you feel that way, Harper. It's just Bryce has always been so driven. And I'm not." I shot back, feeling the sting of their words. "I've been working tirelessly too, but it's like you only see him." The tension in the room was palpable, and for a moment, no one spoke. Then Bryce leaned back, crossing his arms. "Look, Harper, maybe you're just taking things too personally." I stared at him, incredulous. "Too personally? This isn't just about me, Bryce. It's about fairness, about being seen." My father's jaw tightened. "This isn't the time for this discussion. We're all just trying to do our best." "Exactly," I said, standing up. "And maybe it's time you started seeing my best too." I left the kitchen, my heart pounding with a mix of anger and relief. I had finally said what I needed to, but it didn't change the fact that I felt more isolated than ever. As I walked outside to clear my head, I spotted Grandma Edna's garden, a small oasis of calm and color. Her presence was almost tangible there, like she was whispering encouragement in the rustling leaves. Later that day, I was at work, trying to focus on the details of the upcoming gala. The event was my chance to prove myself, to step out of Bryce's shadow and into my own light. But my mind kept drifting back to the morning's confrontation. As I reviewed the guest list, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Curious, I opened it. "Harper, it's Bryce. Can we talk?" "I think we need to clear the air." I hesitated, the memory of his dismissive tone still fresh. But curiosity got the better of me. Maybe there was more to this than I realized. We met at a nearby cafe, the kind of place Bryce usually avoided for its lack of sophistication. He was already there, looking uncharacteristically tense. "Thanks for coming," he said as I sat down. "What's this about, Bryce?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. He shifted uncomfortably, glancing around before leaning in. "Look, I know things have been tense between us. And I get why you're upset. But there's something you should know." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite myself. "What is it?" He hesitated, his usual confidence faltering. "I'm in a bit of a bind, Harper. Financially. Things aren't as rosy as they seem." I blinked, taken aback by the admission. Bryce, the golden boy, in trouble? It was almost unthinkable. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I need help," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "And because I know you're the only one who might actually listen." The revelation hung in the air between us, a new twist in our complicated relationship. As I looked at Bryce, I saw not just my brother, but a man struggling with his own demons. It was a moment that changed everything, adding layers to my understanding of him and deepening the conflict I faced. I left the cafe with more questions than answers, the path ahead more uncertain than ever. But one thing was clear: the story was far from over. The days following my conversation with Bryce were a whirlwind of emotions and unexpected revelations. I couldn't shake the feeling that our family was perched on the edge of a precipice, ready to tumble into chaos at any moment. Bryce's confession about his financial troubles had opened a Pandora's box of questions and uncertainties. One afternoon, as I was finalizing details for the charity gala, I found myself distracted by the memory of Bryce's plea for help. His vulnerability had been so raw, so unlike the confident facade he usually wore. But as much as I wanted to help him, a part of me felt vindicated. Bryce, the untouchable, was finally facing the consequences of his actions. Later that week, I was at the family home, ostensibly to discuss some last-minute arrangements for the gala with my mother. Lorraine was in the living room, flipping through a stack of magazines, her mind clearly elsewhere. "Mom, can we talk?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. She looked up, a hint of surprise in her eyes. "Of course, Harper. What's on your mind?" I hesitated, choosing my words carefully. "It's about Bryce. Have you noticed anything off with him lately?" Her brow furrowed slightly. "Off? What do you mean?" I sighed, deciding to take a leap. "I think he's in some kind of trouble. Financial trouble." She blinked, her expression shifting from confusion to concern. "Bryce? Are you sure?" "Pretty sure," I replied, watching her reaction closely. "He mentioned something to me the other day. I think he might need help." Lorraine's face softened, but there was a flicker of something else there too: denial, maybe. "Bryce has always been so responsible. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding." I wanted to shake her, to make her see the truth. But I held back, knowing it wasn't the time for that battle. "Maybe, but I think we should keep an eye on him, just in case." As I left the room, I couldn't help but feel a pang of frustration. My parents' blind faith in Bryce was like a fortress, impenetrable and unwavering. But the cracks were starting to show, and it was only a matter of time before the walls came down. The next day, I was back at the office, preparing for a meeting with the gala sponsors. My phone buzzed with a message from Bryce, asking if we could meet again. I agreed, curious to see what he had to say. We met at a quiet park, away from prying eyes and ears. Bryce looked more haggard than before, the weight of his troubles clearly taking a toll. "Thanks for coming, Harper," he said, his voice subdued. "What's going on, Bryce?" I asked, cutting to the chase. "You look like you haven't slept in days." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I recognized from our childhood. "It's bad, Harper. Worse than I let on. I'm in over my head and I don't know how to fix it." I crossed my arms, trying to process his words. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? Or Mom and Dad?" "Because I'm supposed to be the one who has it all together," he replied, a bitter edge to his voice. I didn't want to disappoint them or Tessa. I sighed, feeling a mix of sympathy and exasperation. "Bryce, you can't keep hiding this. It's only going to get worse." He nodded, his expression pained. "I know. But what do I do?" In that moment, I realized that despite everything, Bryce was still my brother. And maybe, just maybe, helping him was the right thing to do. "You need to come clean, Bryce. To Tessa, to Mom and Dad. It's the only way to start fixing this." He looked at me, his eyes filled with a vulnerability I had never seen before. "What if they hate me for it?" "They won't," I said softly. "But they need to know the truth." As we parted ways, I felt a strange sense of calm. I had taken a step toward helping Bryce, but I knew the road ahead would be anything but easy. Later that evening, as I was wrapping up my day, an unexpected email popped into my inbox. It was from the gala's main sponsor, expressing concerns about Bryce's involvement due to rumors of his financial instability. My heart sank. The crisis was escalating faster than I had anticipated, threatening not just Bryce's reputation but my own hard work. I realized then that the stakes were higher than I had imagined. This wasn't just about Bryce's financial woes or my quest for recognition. It was about the very fabric of our family and the choices we made in the face of adversity. As I sat there, staring at the screen, I knew I had to act. The time for passivity was over. It was time to confront the truth, no matter the cost. The charity gala was just days away, and the pressure was mounting. I was in the middle of a final walkthrough at the venue, checking details and making sure everything was on track. The ballroom was a hive of activity, with caterers setting up tables and decorators arranging flowers. But my mind was elsewhere, caught in the tangled web of family drama that seemed to be spiraling out of control. Just as I was reviewing the seating arrangements, my phone buzzed with a call from Tessa. It was unusual for her to reach out directly, and my stomach twisted with apprehension as I answered. "Hey, Tessa," I said, trying to sound casual. "Harper, can we talk?" Her voice was tense, a far cry from her usual bubbly tone. "It's about Bryce." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "Sure, what's going on?" "Something's not right," she said, her words rushing out. "He's been acting strange, and I found some overdue notices in his office." "I'm worried." I hesitated, torn between loyalty to my brother and the urge to protect Tessa from the fallout. "Tessa, I think you should talk to Bryce. He needs to be honest with you about what's happening." There was a pause, and I could almost hear her processing my words. "So there is something going on?" I sighed, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on me. "Yes, but it's not my place to say. He needs to tell you himself." "Thank you, Harper," she said softly, her voice tinged with gratitude and fear. After the call, I felt a knot of tension settle in my chest. The truth was closing in, and I knew it was only a matter of time before everything came to a head. As I headed back to my office, I couldn't shake the feeling that the ground beneath us was shifting. Later that evening, I was at home, trying to unwind with a glass of wine when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Bryce standing there, looking more disheveled than ever. "Can I come in?" he asked, his voice weary. I stepped aside, letting him in. "What's going on, Bryce?" He sank onto the couch, running a hand through his hair. "I talked to Tessa, told her everything." I sat down across from him, watching his face for clues. "How did she take it?" He let out a shaky breath. "Not great. She's hurt and angry, and I don't blame her. But she said she needs time to think." I nodded, understanding the complexity of the situation. "At least you were honest with her. That's a start." He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mix of desperation and gratitude. "Thanks for pushing me to do it, Harper. I don't know what's going to happen, but at least I'm not hiding anymore." As we sat there, a sense of uneasy calm settled over us. The truth was out, but the consequences were still unfolding. I couldn't help but wonder how this would affect the gala and my own standing with the sponsors. The next day, as I was preparing for a meeting with the gala committee, I received an unexpected email from Lorraine. It was short and to the point, asking me to come by the house for a family meeting. My heart sank, knowing this was likely about Bryce's situation and the impact it was having on all of us. That evening, I arrived at the family home to find my parents waiting in the living room. The atmosphere was tense, charged with unspoken words and simmering emotions. "Harper, we need to talk," my father said, gesturing for me to sit. I took a seat, bracing myself for what was to come. "Is this about Bryce?" Lorraine nodded, her expression conflicted. "We're worried about him. And we're worried about you too, with the gala and everything." I met their gaze, feeling a surge of determination. "I know things are complicated right now, but I'm handling it. The gala is going to be a success, and Bryce will find his way through this." Gerald sighed, his shoulders slumping slightly. "We just want to make sure everyone is okay." I nodded, understanding their concern, but also feeling a newfound resolve. "We will be. But we need to face the truth and support each other, even if it's hard." As the conversation continued, I realized that this was a turning point for all of us. The crisis had forced us to confront our flaws and fears, but it had also opened the door to healing and growth. As I left the house that night, I felt a sense of clarity. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was ready to face whatever came next. The themes of revenge and protection had evolved into something deeper, an understanding that true strength came from facing the truth and standing by those you love, even when the path was fraught with challenges. The day of the charity gala dawned with a sense of anticipation and dread. The venue was buzzing with last-minute preparations, and I was in the thick of it, directing staff and making sure everything was perfect. This event was my chance to prove myself, to step out of Bryce's shadow once and for all. But the weight of family drama loomed large, threatening to overshadow my hard work. As guests began to arrive, I moved through the crowd, greeting attendees and ensuring everything was running smoothly. The gala was a dazzling affair, with elegantly dressed patrons mingling under the soft glow of chandeliers. Yet, beneath the glittering surface, I felt a simmering tension, as if everything could unravel at a moment's notice. In the midst of the festivities, I spotted Bryce and Tessa entering the ballroom. Bryce looked polished, but there was a tightness around his eyes, a sign of the strain he was under. Tessa, on the other hand, wore a mask of composure, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Harper," Bryce called, making his way over with Tessa in tow. "Hey, you too," I replied, trying to sound upbeat. "Glad you could make it." Tessa nodded, her expression unreadable. "It's a beautiful event, Harper. You've done an amazing job." "Thanks," I said, feeling a flicker of pride despite the tension. "I'm glad you think so." Bryce glanced around, his gaze lingering on the crowd. "This is quite the turnout." "Yeah, it is," I agreed, sensing there was more he wanted to say. Before he could continue, Lorraine and Gerald joined us, their presence adding another layer of complexity to the gathering. My parents exchanged pleasantries with Bryce and Tessa, but there was an undercurrent of unease in their interactions. As the evening progressed, I found myself moving from one task to another, my mind racing with thoughts of the impending reading of Grandma Edna's will. It was a pivotal moment that could change everything, and the uncertainty gnawed at me. Later, as I was checking on the catering staff, I overheard a snippet of conversation that stopped me in my tracks. Two guests were discussing Bryce, their voices low but clear enough to catch the gist. "Heard he's in deep financial trouble," one of them said. "Apparently, it's affecting his work." "Really?" the other replied, sounding intrigued. "I thought he was doing well." "Not according to the latest rumors. It's all starting to come out now." My heart sank, the weight of their words pressing down on me. Bryce's struggles were becoming public knowledge, and the fallout was spreading. I knew this would only complicate things further, adding another layer of pressure to an already volatile situation. As the night wore on, I felt the strain of keeping everything together. The gala was a success on the surface, but beneath it all, I was teetering on the edge of a breaking point. The truth was closing in, and I knew I couldn't keep running from it. Finally, as the last of the guests departed and the venue began to empty, I found myself alone with Bryce. The room was quiet, the echoes of the evening still lingering in the air. "Harper," Bryce said, his voice breaking the silence. "I need to know. What are you going to do about the will?" I looked at him, seeing the desperation in his eyes. "I don't know, Bryce. I haven't decided yet." He nodded, his expression a mix of hope and fear. I don't want to lose everything." I sighed, feeling the weight of his words. "I know. But this isn't just about you, Bryce. It's about all of us." As we stood there, the enormity of the situation hit me. The will, the family dynamics, Bryce's financial troubles, it was all coming to a head, and I had to make a choice. The path forward was unclear, but I knew I couldn't avoid it any longer. In that moment, I realized that my perception of justice and revenge was shifting. It wasn't just about settling scores or proving myself. It was about finding a way to navigate the complexities of family and responsibility, to make choices that aligned with my values and the legacy Grandma Edna had left for me. As I left the venue, the cool night air hit my face, a reminder of the challenges ahead. The road was uncertain, but I was ready to face it, to find a way through the tangled mess of our lives and emerge stronger on the other side. The day of Grandma Edna's will reading arrived with a sense of ominous finality. The family gathered in the old parlor, a room filled with memories and the scent of aged furniture. Sunlight streamed through the lace curtains, casting delicate patterns on the floor, but the atmosphere was anything but serene. I sat next to Bryce, who looked as though he hadn't slept in days. His usual confidence was replaced by a palpable anxiety, his leg bouncing nervously as we waited for the lawyer to begin. Lorraine and Gerald sat across from us, their expressions a mix of anticipation and unease. This was the moment we had all been dreading, the moment that could redefine everything. The lawyer, a stern-looking man in a crisp suit, cleared his throat and began to read. The room was silent except for the rustle of paper and the occasional creak of the old house settling around us. As he read through Grandma Edna's wishes, I felt the tension in the room coil tighter with each word. Finally, he reached the part about the family heirlooms. My heart pounded as he announced that they were to be left to me, not Bryce. The room seemed to hold its breath, the air thick with shock and disbelief. Bryce turned to me, his face a mask of betrayal. "Harper, how could you?" he whispered, his voice barely audible but laced with accusation. I shook my head, my own emotions a tumultuous mix of guilt and vindication. "I didn't know, Bryce. I swear." Lorraine's eyes filled with tears, her voice trembling as she spoke. "Why would she do this, Harper? You must have known." "I didn't," I insisted, feeling the weight of their accusations like a physical blow. "I only found out after she passed. I would never." Gerald's voice cut through my protest. "This isn't right. Bryce has always been the one to carry on the family legacy." The room erupted into a cacophony of voices, each one louder and more desperate than the last. I felt myself sinking into the chaos, the accusations swirling around me like a storm. It was as if the foundation of our family was crumbling, and I was powerless to stop it. In the midst of the turmoil, Bryce stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the wooden floor. "I can't believe this," he said, his voice breaking. "You were supposed to be on my side, Harper." I rose to my feet, my own anger flaring. "I've always been on your side, Bryce. But this isn't about sides. It's about what Grandma wanted." He shook his head, his expression one of deep hurt. "I can't do this," he said, turning and leaving the room abruptly. The silence that followed his departure was deafening. I felt hollow, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. My family was fractured, and I didn't know how to fix it. Later, as I sat alone in the garden, the enormity of the day settled over me. The heirlooms, the legacy, the broken bonds, it was all too much. I felt as though I was standing at the edge of a precipice, the ground crumbling beneath my feet. The sound of footsteps on the gravel path drew my attention. It was Lorraine, her expression softer now, but still tinged with sadness. "Harper," she began, sitting beside me on the stone bench. "I know this isn't easy for you." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. "Your grandmother loved you very much," she continued, her voice gentle. "She saw something in you that maybe we've overlooked." I looked at her, surprised by her words. "I don't know what to do, Mom. I didn't ask for any of this." She sighed, her gaze distant. "None of us did. But maybe it's time we start seeing each other for who we really are, not who we expect each other to be." Her words hung in the air, a fragile bridge over the chasm that had opened between us. It was a small comfort, but a comfort nonetheless. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the garden in a warm glow, I realized that the path forward wouldn't be easy. But maybe, just maybe, there was a way to rebuild, to find a new kind of balance in the chaos. The themes of revenge and justice had shifted once again, morphing into something deeper, an understanding that true strength came from facing the truth, even when it was painful. As I sat there, I knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but I was ready to face them, one step at a time. The air was thick with tension as I approached the family home, the weight of the impending confrontation pressing down on me. After the will reading, things had spiraled out of control, and Bryce's financial troubles had become the talk of the town. It was time to face the storm head-on. I found Bryce in the living room, pacing like a caged animal. His usually immaculate suit was rumpled, and his eyes were shadowed with exhaustion. He stopped when he saw me, a flicker of defiance in his gaze. "Harper," he said, his voice a mix of accusation and desperation. "I thought you were supposed to have my back." "I do, Bryce," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "But you need to face the truth." He shook his head, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "Truth? What truth?" "That I'm a failure." I took a step closer, meeting his gaze. "No, that you're human. That you've made mistakes, but you can still fix them." He looked away, his jaw clenched. "It's not that simple." "Maybe not," I conceded, feeling the weight of his struggle. "But running from it won't help." Our conversation was interrupted by the sound of footsteps. Tessa appeared in the doorway, her face a mask of hurt and determination. "Bryce," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "We need to talk." He stiffened, glancing between us. "Tessa, No," she interrupted, her voice firm. "I've listened long enough. It's time you listen." I moved to leave, giving them space, but Bryce caught my arm. "Stay, Harper. Please." I nodded, staying rooted as Tessa stepped forward. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears, but her resolve was clear. "Bryce, I love you, but I can't do this alone," she said, her voice steady. "You need to be honest. With me, with yourself." He hesitated, the weight of her words hanging in the air. "I'm scared, Tessa." She softened, reaching out to him. "I know, but we can face this together." I watched as Bryce's defenses crumbled, his vulnerability laid bare. It was a moment of raw honesty, a turning point in the tangled web of our lives. As they talked, I felt a shift within myself. The themes of revenge and justice that had driven me were evolving into something deeper, a desire for healing and understanding. When their conversation ended, Bryce turned to me, his expression a mix of gratitude and uncertainty. "Harper, I'm sorry." "For everything." I nodded, feeling a sense of peace. "We'll figure it out. Together." But just as it seemed the storm was passing, the door swung open and Lorraine and Gerald entered, their faces etched with worry. "What's going on?" Gerald demanded, his gaze shifting between us. Bryce took a deep breath, stepping forward. "I'm in trouble, Dad. Financial trouble." Lorraine's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with shock. "Bryce, why didn't you tell us?" "Because I didn't want to disappoint you," he admitted, his voice breaking. Gerald's expression softened, a mix of anger and love. "We're your family, Bryce. We're here to help." As the truth settled over us, I felt the tension in the room begin to dissipate. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was a start. The unexpected twist came when Lorraine turned to me, her eyes filled with tears. "Harper, I'm sorry. We've been so focused on Bryce that we've overlooked you." Her words were a balm to my soul, a validation I hadn't realized I needed. "Thank you, Mom." In that moment, I understood that the core themes of our story, revenge, justice, and family, were intertwined in ways I hadn't fully grasped. The path to healing was fraught with challenges, but it was a journey worth taking. As the sun set outside, casting the room in a warm glow, I felt a sense of hope. The confrontation had brought us face to face with our truths, and while the road ahead was uncertain, we were ready to walk it together. The climax had tested us all, but it had also revealed the strength of our bonds. And as I looked around at my family, I knew that we would find a way forward, one step at a time. In the days following the confrontation, a quiet transformation began to unfold within our family. It was as if the storm had cleared, leaving behind a landscape ripe for rebuilding. Bryce had taken the first steps toward redemption, opening up to Tessa and beginning to untangle the financial mess he'd found himself in. It wasn't easy, but it was a start. I watched from the sidelines, feeling a sense of peace I hadn't expected. My own journey had been tumultuous, filled with moments of doubt and anger, but I had emerged stronger, more certain of who I was and what I wanted. One afternoon, I found myself back in Grandma Edna's garden, a place that had always been a refuge. The air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers, and the sun cast a warm glow over the neatly tended rows. As I knelt to pull a few weeds, my fingers brushed against something hard and unexpected. Curious, I dug a little deeper and unearthed a small, weathered box. Inside, I found a letter addressed to me in Grandma Edna's familiar handwriting. My heart skipped a beat as I unfolded the paper, her words a balm to my soul. "Dear Harper," it began, "I've watched you grow with pride and love. You have a strength and resilience that will guide you through life's challenges. Remember, true validation comes from within, not from the approval of others. Live authentically, my dear, and know that you are cherished." I sat back on my heels, letting her words wash over me. It was as if she had known I would need this reminder, this encouragement to embrace my own path. Her belief in me was a gift, one that I would carry with me always. As I tucked the letter back into the box, I heard footsteps approaching. I looked up to see Lorraine, her expression soft and open. "Mind if I join you?" she asked, her voice gentle. "Of course not," I replied, gesturing for her to sit beside me. We sat in companionable silence for a moment, the garden a peaceful cocoon around us. Finally, Lorraine spoke, her words thoughtful and sincere. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said, Harper, about seeing each other for who we really are." I nodded, feeling the truth of her words. "It's not always easy, but it's important." She sighed, a small smile playing on her lips. "I'm proud of you, for everything you've accomplished and for standing up for yourself." Her admission warmed me, a balm to the lingering wounds of the past. "Thank you, Mom. That means a lot." As we sat there, I realized that our family's journey was far from over. There would be more challenges, more moments of doubt and struggle, but we were learning to navigate them together, with honesty and understanding. The resolution to our story wasn't perfect, but it was real. Bryce was finding his way, Tessa by his side, and our family was slowly mending the fractures that had once seemed insurmountable. As I rose to leave the garden, a thought struck me, a lingering question that added a layer of complexity to our newfound peace. What if Grandma Edna had left the heirlooms to me not just as a gift, but as a challenge? A challenge to step into my own power, to embrace the legacy she had entrusted to me. It was a question that would linger, a reminder that growth and understanding were ongoing journeys. But as I walked back toward the house, I felt ready to face whatever came next, armed with the knowledge that I was enough, just as I was. The themes of revenge and justice had evolved into something richer, a tapestry of forgiveness, resilience, and love. And as I stepped into the warmth of the house, I knew that whatever the future held, I was ready to meet it head-on. Surrounded by the strength of family and the enduring legacy of those who had come before.